Okay, Mike.
So just I wasn't gonna. It's just all sort of interesting. If you,
I'm not sure that that's really true, but
if,
I'm doing my best to make it interesting.
If you have people reporting to you here at the White House, if one of your employees, one of the people in the lower press, came to you and said, "I love technology. I've got like an old PC sitting at my apartment in DuPont, and I'd like to run a mail server using Linux on it and plug it into my Cox or Fios wireless, and I'd like to use that full time instead of my WHO email address to conduct all of the business that I conduct with reporters and other people in the White House and the government. That would be okay with you. You would offer them guidance against it, but at the end of the day, if they wanted to do that, that would be okay.
Well, I think I would strongly suggest that they follow the guidance of White House attorneys and use their official government address.
That would be
again, if they didn't, it would be against the guidance that I had directly given them. But I don't know that it would be inconsistent with the Federal Records Act, or in this case, the Presidential Records Act. Well, but I think this is pertinent, though, because this is the context by which people are asking this question, is whether or not, well, this was a direct question that I got from a number of your colleagues, was whether or not she was following the law here.
But let's set that aside for a minute, because the Federal Records Act is a question of preserving documents, and that's relevant and maybe not interesting, but it's relevant.
Okay.
But there's also security questions, right? There's questions about, regardless of whether or not something is kept for posterity, there's questions of, I'm sending you an email, you're sending me an email, I'm emailing Schultz, is somebody hacking, is the contents of that information, getting out? Maybe Schultz is emailing somebody, inside the government that's got a classified document, or that's got a secure document that should be secure. That has nothing to do with the Records Act. That has to do with security issues. And would it be okay for Schultz to have his little server on his Linux box in there? I don't know. I'm sorry, Eric.
I can't believe that Eric's being both unfairly defamed, and I also think you're greatly overestimating his technological prowess. Just based on his, based on some of the conversations that he and I have had in the context of this line of questioning.
There are serious security issues, and so I'm just saying, aside from guidance and preservation of records, you're saying there's no way in which that would be wrong?
Well, let me get to a couple of points that you raised in your question, and I do think that this is a line of questioning that is relevant. The first is that there is a separate email system that does pertain to classified information. So this question about classified information being passed around on these kinds of email systems, that is certainly not supposed to occur, and frankly raises much more significant problems than compliance with the Federal Records Act. So there is an entirely separate classified system for transmitting classified information.
And we think Secretary Clinton had access to, or had some kind of email address on that system that was separate from the one we're talking about?
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. So that is something that the State Department may be able to tell you. I'll tell you that I don't have an email, a classified email address, and so so I wouldn't have been trading emails.
So put classified aside, though, there are still sensitive documents that you guys wouldn't want to be floating around.
That's true. And we do take cybersecurity very seriously, and I know that the private sector does as well, and that obviously, the President's put forward legislation related to cybersecurity to try to not just strengthen the defenses of private sector email networks or computer networks more generally, but also try to strengthen the defenses of the computer networks, including the email networks of the federal government. So this security question is one that we're very mindful of. It's hard for me to sort of assess what sort of vulnerability may have been created by the establishment of a separate network. Obviously even large networks like ones that I operate on and ones that employees at the State Department operate on are not invulnerable to intrusion. We've talked about the fact that there has been activity of concern detected on what otherwise are very strong federal government computer systems. So I guess the point is that we certainly are mindful of security online. Some people call it cyber hygiene. I think it's a strange term, but it's one that people try to be mindful of to ensure that we're doing everything we can to protect our cybersecurity. But this is something that doesn't just have an impact on the federal government. There are private sector institutions that are also grappling with this question as well.
I guess I won't belabor it, but just, you know, what you just said about cybersecurity and the fact that even a network as secure as the White House or the State Department or other parts of the government or big corporations can be hacked, that is exactly why everybody is raising questions about the idea that somebody could be operating, whether it was a Gmail account or an AOL account or their own private hosted thing or something server, if the AP is right, about in their house, that raises questions. Those systems are even less secure potentially, right? And so,
well, I don't know that I could reach that assessment. I don't know that I could reach that assessment. I think this is a place where I think your line of inquiry might actually be more interesting than some of the other lines of inquiry that we've had on this topic. But it probably is a worthy discussion for a computer science expert to sort of examine the situation. I could imagine a case. Well, there you go, you can talk there. But I'm certainly not a computer science expert, but I could imagine a scenario where you would say that a smaller network is less likely to attract the attention of hackers or others who might want to do harm. But
unless it had the name ClintonEmail.com, that probably attracts a lot of attention.
Well, again, a computer expert would probably be better equipped to talk to you about this. But what we have been focused on is primarily ensuring proper compliance with the Federal Records Act in this instance, but also more generally ensuring that we're putting in place all of the cyber defenses we can to try to protect the security of government information. Okay, Alexis.
Josh, can I just follow up with a quick question?